is taken from the Gospel of John, chapter 20, verses 1 through 18. On the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene came to the tomb early while it was still dark. She saw that the stone had been removed from the tomb. So she went running to Simon Peter and to the other disciple, the one Jesus loved, and said to them, "They've taken the Lord out of the tomb, and we don't know where they've put him." At that, Peter and the other disciple went out heading for the tomb. The two were running together, but the other disciple outran Peter and got to the tomb first. Stooping down, he saw the linen cloths lying there, but he did not go in. Then following him, Simon Peter also came. He entered the tomb and saw the linen cloths lying there. The wrapping that had been on his head was not lying with the linen cloths, but was folded up in a separate place by itself. The other disciple who had reached the tomb first then also went in, saw, and believed, for they did not yet understand the scripture that he must rise from the dead. Then the disciples returned to the place where they were staying. But Mary stood outside the tomb, crying, and as she was crying, she stopped to look into the tomb. She saw two angels in white sitting where Jesus' body had been, lying, one at the head and the other at the feet. They said to her, "Woman, why are you crying?" "Because they've taken away my Lord," she told them. "I don't know where they've put him." Having said this, she turned around and saw Jesus standing there, but she did not know it was Jesus. "Woman," Jesus said to her, "why are you crying? Who is it that you're seeking?" Supposing he was the gardener, she replied, "Sir, if you've carried him away, tell me where you've put him, and I'll take him away." Jesus said to her, "Mary." Turning around, she said to him in Aramaic, "Rabboni," which means teacher. "Don't cling to me," Jesus told her, "since I have not yet ascended to the Father. But go to my brothers and tell them that I am ascending to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God." Mary Magdalene went and announced to the disciples, "I have seen the Lord," and she told them what he had said to her. This is the gospel of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Please be seated as we focus our attention on the scriptures that we read today. Lord, thank you for your word. Thank you for your spirit that opens up our minds and hearts to be able to believe, to know the truth of your word, the truth of what you have promised, the truth of who you are, the truth of who we are in you. And now as we go into your word even more in depth, may you lead us into a deeper understanding, a deeper joy, a deeper peace. In Jesus' name, amen. In growing up within the Lutheran Church, I went through confirmation, and as part of that, I had to memorize, actually, some of Luther's catechism. Anybody have to do that? I'm sorry. No, it's good stuff. And whenever he would teach, he was a brilliant teacher, Luther was. And whenever he would teach, he wouldn't just put out a statement. He would follow the statement, and what does this mean? Remember that? What does this mean? And then he would give an explanation for what that meant. Jim, do me a favor, just for the time being, turn off the monitor aspect, the little yellow, thank you. And I'd like to do the same thing today with regards to the resurrection. We use that term, he is risen. I don't see the term in banners per se, but the term itself embodies the whole event of Jesus coming out of the tomb. And in the words of Montoya in The Princess Bride, you keep using that term. You see that movie? I don't think it means what you think it means. And I like to go into depth as to the resurrection. Because it's more than just an event, it's more than just what took place, although that is certainly part of the big picture of what the resurrection is. But even Jesus' disciples, upon experiencing his resurrected body, they didn't know what to do with it. They didn't know how to make sense of it because it had never happened before, even though it had been predicted in the scriptures. As we said, he had to come. He had to, as the scriptures said. For they did not yet understand the scripture that he must rise from the dead. So the scriptures have been pointing toward this for many, many years. But it was so far removed from their reality that they were almost in a state of shock. Remember a year ago when all this was happening? No, this couldn't be happening. All right, fine, we'll shut down for 2 weeks to flatten the curve. Nobody had any idea. It was almost a shocking experience, even though it's not the first time it ever happened. But see, distance away from the experience tends to deaden our ability to grasp the reality at hand. And so they don't get it. They don't get what it means. And that's okay. It wasn't time. Over time, he began to explain it. But to really grasp it, you have to take almost a sobering look at the world in which we live in. Not the world that we live in as adults, because as an adults we tend to become deadened by the suffering and the cruelty, the disappointment, the fear of the world. Anybody ever remember as a kid running through the sprinkler in a hot summer day? Remember how fun that was? And you just giggled and laughed, and hopefully when all was done, you could go in and get one of those popsicles. That was before you had to worry about the contaminants that might be in the water. Before you had to worry about how much it would cost for your water bill. Before you had to worry about all the aspects that come with adulthood. Not so fun to run through a sprinkler anymore, is it? Well, it could be. But if you're going to do that, let me know. I'd kind of like to see. I'll join you. See, life has this way of deadening us. And here's the thing. When you come in, this innocence that we carry, it's just a joyous experience. Everything is new, and children will often ask, why? Why? What does this mean? Why? And at some point in time, we stop asking that because we start realizing that the world is not a good place. Start realizing that there are people in this world that do really, really bad things. People in this world that sell children for unspeakable things. There's governments in the world that imprison and torture their people in unspeakable ways. There are diseases and things that threaten our livelihood that bring in and usher in unspeakable fear. And you really have two choices outside of God. You can either deny that it's there and just focus your life on what you're going to do and just try to avoid it the best you can. Or you deaden everything that makes you alive. And you just become one of the walking people that sin has deadened. Yep, there's another homeless person. Yep. Well, I wonder what time I can have my coffee break. Because you forget the initial response from moving from innocence to the sin of this world of saying, wait a second, this is not how the world's supposed to be. Children aren't supposed to be sold. Governments aren't supposed to threaten their people. And instead, you just become numb. Wait for that retirement where you can go off to some place and forget about life. But you see, that's when the devil wins. And God had said from the very beginning in Genesis, I will put enmity between the human being and the serpent, and the serpent will strike your foot, your heel. He'll bite at you. He'll bite at you every day of your life, but he'll crush his head. It's a glimpse that I'm not going to allow this to happen. I'm going to fix it. I'm going to transform it. I'm going to make all things new. It will be something that your deadened hearts will become quickened to, that you will not be able to grasp immediately, because as the light of this new resurrection reality comes into being, the deadness that has clouded our eyes and put us into darkness, it'll be too much at first. If you notice, they come in and there's just brightness everywhere, so much so that sometimes you can't even be able to stand looking at it. It's just too bright. And I'm going to be doing something all new, and I'm going to bring in a Messiah that will usher in this age. It will be an age that you could only dream of if you were a child. That's why Jesus says, blessed are you, Lord of heaven, because you've hidden these things from the deadened adults that think that they know everything, and you've revealed it to the people that still have hearts as children, that still long to play and make things right, that still long and haven't been formed by the evil and the news stories and the countless stories that bombard us about how the devil has definitely taken the control of this world. And when I send that person in, he's going to usher in a day in which I will wipe away every tear. You just spent time cleaning yesterday. Thank you for all that showed up. We had to put weed killer in the parking lot. But there'll be a day in which the weeds won't grow anymore. I mean, that's scriptural. We had to put locks on because we get broken into, not in the resurrection. Imagine a day where there's no hospitals, no police. A day in which there's no massage parlors. We just kind of drive by and ignore what's happening in there. A day in which I'll make all things new. That's the resurrection. We get to be part of it. And it's not just a day that you can hope for that will happen. It's also a reality in which I, in a resurrected spirit and in resurrected being, dwell within you, so that in this life, as we are going towards the resurrection, you are more than conquerors for the evil that you experience in this world. You overcome it all. And not only overcome it, but you're being transformed to be in the likeness of my Son. You will begin to see the world not from the viewpoint of the deadness of sin, but from the hope and promise and joy and love and laughter and giggles of the resurrection. That is what I'm offering you in Jesus Christ. Yeah. It's easy, though, like I said, remember, time can deaden the heart. And even though the first Christians thought that he was going to return in his life, it didn't happen. And then the next generation comes and goes, and finally, 2,000 years later, it can be very easy to be distracted from that reality of his return. I believe his return is very close at hand. But if not, it's still on its way. And we can become deadened to that reality, kind of forgetful of it, as if the norm is just simply to go through life the best we can, and the gospel becomes, well, an insurance policy to get to heaven, but the actual event itself becomes a faraway dream. And so on this day, the resurrection day, let's not forget. That's why we're here. That's why we gather. Yes, sometimes we gather because it's tradition and family obligations sometimes and cultural norms and all that plays into it, that's sure. But that's not really why we're here. We're here because God has promised that he's going to make all things new. And he's doing it. And we get to participate in that. We get to celebrate it even before it takes place. That gives us the power to weep with those who weep and celebrate with those who are celebrating. It gives us the power to cast down powers and principalities that cast themselves against the truth of God. It gives us the power to join in fellowship, Christian fellowship, and support one another in ways that the world could only wish it could. It gives us the power to face evil dead in the face head on, eye to eye, and not flinch. For our God fights for us, and he is on his way, and he dwells among his people. So as we go through the day, I don't know what your customs are. I looked at my refrigerator today. I've got my buttered lamb with 2 little peppercorn eyes. It's not a Scandinavian thing, if you know what I mean. It's a Polish thing. Yeah, I married a Polish woman. And we'll have borscht, because that too is Polish. We will not be having lutefisk. Thank God for that. You know, there's got to be a scripture in Isaiah, there will no longer be lutefisk in there. I've been looking, but I can't find it. But let's not forget the power of the resurrection, the power and joy and hope and vision of what is the ultimate reality. May the Lord bless you and keep your hearts alive with his hope, his presence, his power, his spirit, his joy. For he does dwell within you and among you. Amen.